for the past month or so, it's been very cold in the Northeast. Now, I'm a Southern person. I grew up in the South. I lived in Texas for some of my life, Louisiana, Georgia, Tennessee, and even Virginia was kind of the most north I had lived until now in Maryland. And, you know, I don't mind snow that much. I don't mind cold that much. I'm just not used to it being cold for as long of a period as it's been. And if you're from the Northeast, like Boston or any of those areas, I understand. You get it way worse and you understand it. I'm just not quite used to it yet. So give me a little grace. I am glad that I learned how to drive on ice a little bit. Even in Tennessee, the few snows that we got when I was learning how to drive, I had the opportunity to go out and kind of drive in parking lots and learn how to drive on the ice. But I think it's so funny that about 2 weeks ago, we had a lot of snow. For me, we had 8 inches of snow, and it's still around because for the last 2 weeks, it's been in the teens, it's been in the 20s. And I think today was the first day that I saw it got up to the 40s in a long time. So that's exciting. But when it first snowed, everybody around, they took a lot of precautions. I was very thankful. They had snow plows out that were plowing the streets. They salted the streets. But that first day or two, when the snow was really coming down, not a lot of people went anywhere. I worked from home. There was no issue there. And I could kind of recognize that as I was ready to venture out and things were kind of cleared enough that we could go and do things. I remember it was early morning because I was going to the gym about 5:30, 5:45-ish in the morning. It was 9 degrees out, and I remember pulling out onto the interstate. Now, you can take this however you want, but Maryland drivers are crazy. I have lived in multiple different states and seen some pretty rough driving, but Maryland drivers, it doesn't matter if there's snow on the ground or if it's sunny and 75, they're going to open it up and go. They drive like there is no tomorrow, no matter what. And I just remember as I was pulling onto the interstate, the first thought that came to my mind was this proverb, Proverbs 22:3, which says, "A prudent person foresees danger and takes precautions. The simpleton goes blindly on and suffers the consequences." And as I drove to the gym that morning, the amount of cars on the side of the road helped me understand there are consequences if you don't take precautions. Now, I want to talk to you today about the difference between being cautious or living a cautious life versus taking precautions and being able to allow precautions to lead you. And I think there's an important subtle difference between these two words and how they play out, because we are taught at a young age to be cautious. We are taught from day one, essentially, fire is hot, right? Look both ways before you cross the street. Don't chase things out into the street. My favorite. I don't even know where this came from, but I just remember whenever we'd go to a pool when I was a kid, we'd eat something and then our parents would always say, all right, now you have to sit out for a while to let the food digest or something. So we had to sit out for like 30 minutes or whatever after we ate. I don't know where that came from. I don't know how that happened. Maybe it's been debunked since then. But I just remember that was something that I was always cautious about, where if I was swimming and I ate something, I would always think, maybe I don't want to get in the pool just yet. But it's just fascinating that we're taught these things. As we grow older, right, we're taught to be cautious about other things, cautious about driving, cautious about drugs, cautious about alcohol or sex or things like that. And we have this preconceived notion of, we need to tiptoe around these things. We need to be careful, walking on eggshells. And this is where I kind of want to hit, because the unique difference between living a life of caution and then living a life taking precautions, it's kind of like a stuntman, right? A stuntman can take precautions and do a dry run of a stunt multiple times, checking all the different angles before actually doing it full speed like he should. And I believe that many people move so slowly into their future because they are walking on those eggshells, cautiously second guessing every choice that they've ever made and wondering what's going to happen, and they're afraid of failing. And what happens is they end up never moving at full speed. And they often never reach their full potential because they don't know what they can actually do. And that's why I think it's important to sometimes be able to open it up, as the Marylander drivers, right? They open it up and go. But they need to be aware of their surroundings. And this includes me. I lived most of my 20s tiptoeing around certain things, never diving full speed into anything, but I would kind of move a little bit here and move a little bit there and do a little bit of this and do a little bit of that. And I got okay at a few things, but I didn't get great at any one specific thing, except I think communications. But that's because later in my 20s, I poured 3.5 years into going back to school to study broadcasting. I think that's where I realized, you know what? I need to go full speed at something. And that was the first thing that I feel like I really gunned full speed headlong into. And now it's my job. And I love it. It's every second of every day that I get to recognize that all of the things that have prepared me to be in this zone are because I took precautions and then I did it like a stuntman. I did a couple dry runs. I practiced. And for those 3 years when I was doing radio and broadcasting and everything like that, I learned what not to say and what to say and how to minimize my mess ups and how to help myself be clear and communicative of the message that I'm giving. Now, I still mess up here and there, and I still have moments where I'm not perfect. I have moments where I ramble. And if you've listened to the podcast, I can guarantee you've heard a lot of those moments. But the thing is I am no longer walking slowly on eggshells, second guessing my choices, wondering, is this what's best or should I do this, right? What's in the hand versus what's in the bush? You know, should I go left or should I go right at the fork in the road? What choice should I make? Instead, I'm recognizing that I've taken precautions. I've done a couple dry runs. I've practiced what I've practiced. And now it's time to move at full speed when I can recognize the surroundings. And this is the key point of recognizing cautious versus precautions. There are many of you who are walking through life and you're in a new chapter. And that new chapter has new surroundings and changed viewpoints and changed perspectives that you don't recognize yet. And this is where I want you to live a life of precaution. Take some precaution, do a couple dry runs, and figure out your surroundings. Recognize if there's some black ice on the roads. Recognize if there's some dangers ahead. Recognize that there are some things that you're going to come up against that could be detrimental to your future, but not everything that you come up against is going to be detrimental to your future. Instead of walking cautiously, slowly moving forward, do a couple dry runs and then move through this chapter just like you would any other chapter, or just like you finished the last chapter. You finished the last chapter of your life strong, courageous, moving forward, learning new things. And the whole reason why you're in this new chapter is you had the courage to step into it. Whether it was because you had to make a change, or whether something happened in your life where you didn't get a choice, but you ended up changing and things changed around you. Maybe you went through a breakup, or you lost a job, or you changed schools, or you had to drop out of school. Whatever that might be, you're in a new perspective and in a new environment. Take some precautions. Gather your surroundings. Recognize it. I love the movie Batman Begins. And at the beginning, when Christian Bale, who plays Bruce Wayne, is learning all sorts of stuff, Ra's al Ghul, the bad guy in the comics and the bad guy in the movie, is sword fighting him, training him. And they're fighting on this ice, and everything is going Bruce Wayne's way. And at one point, Bruce Wayne has his sword to the neck of Ra's al Ghul, and he says, "Do you yield?" And Ra's al Ghul says, "How many times do I have to teach you to mind your surroundings?" And he smacks the ice, and Bruce falls in the broken ice into the water. There are so many things that we can avoid in life. And living cautiously is not a bad thing. But taking precautions, I feel like, is such a better way of looking at it, because you can kind of do those dry runs and then move at full speed instead of creeping along oftentimes, if you're driving in ice, if you're creeping along, that car is going to cause accidents because somebody's going to come up behind them. They're not going to be able to stop and smack right into you. So in life, in 2025, you might be in a new chapter, and congratulations for reaching that new chapter. I'm so proud of you and excited for you, wherever that chapter is. Now, I would prefer to do this in the beginning of the year, and that's why I wanted to talk about it. Let's take some precautions. Let's recognize the surroundings. Let's take notice of coworkers that are helpful and honest and the people who we can trust. Take notice of the people who we need to befriend, or the people who are lonely that we can be a beacon of hope to. Recognize the bosses and the job descriptions that you are pursuing, or maybe the class or professors that are harder that you know you're going to need to put more work into. Don't assume that everything that you do for one area of your life is going to work in the next area of your life. And so for 2025, I'm really challenging. What type of precautions can we take over the next 2 months or so to set up the entire rest of the year where we can move full speed because we've already taken the precautions? We've set ourselves a good sleep schedule. We've gotten healthy with our eating. We've focused on gym. We've focused on work. We've focused on the things that we can control early by taking precautions of it. And now we just need to continue doing those things, but we can do them faster and at full speed, because then we're going to move into the future that much faster. I appreciate each and every one of you for listening to this podcast. I cannot wait for all the things that are going to happen in 2025. I can't wait for you to tell me if you have something exciting, or if you're in a new chapter. I'd love to see a comment, either drop below or on Spotify. Remember, we are on iTunes, Spotify, and YouTube. I hope that all of you have a wonderful rest of your week. The next episode will actually be next Monday, since I will be at a conference on Thursday, but I plan on taking a little kit. So I plan on doing some interviews or some extra stuff for the next episodes or episodes to come while I'm at this conference of awesome, successful people. So I'm going to ask some questions there, and I can't wait for that. I really hope that you enjoy it. But for everybody, I hope you have a wonderful rest of your week. Remember to give grace, show love, and as always, stay stellar. Peace.